Hey, welcome everyone to the Architect Marketing Institute live stream broadcast. My name is Eric Bobrow, and with my esteemed partner here, Richard Petrie, we're here to answer your questions about marketing. So we're broadcasting live right now to Facebook in our Facebook group, to LinkedIn, and to YouTube. Now, there's a slight delay from when we talk to when you see it. I think it's a few seconds. Please type into wherever you're tuning in from. Let us know that you can hear us, and it should come into our little studio, the StreamYard web tool. We should be able to see it. And let us know that you can hear us and see us, and we shall get going.
All right.
And let me see if it's live here. It does appear to be live in YouTube. And
all right. So the purpose of today, you guys can ask any questions that you want. We'll endeavor to answer them. Marketing is one of those things that we have learned. Architects get trained to the nth degree in design and running projects, but not a lot of time and effort. A little bit, but not a lot of time and effort gets taught in design school on how to win projects. And so it's kind of the big gaping hole for most people. So we'll cover as much as that as we can today. We might even have some resources and things like that we can point you to. All right. Hello. Just type in where you're from. So Boston, Massachusetts. Daniel. Hey, Daniel from Boston. Louisville, Kentucky. Megan. Louisville, Kentucky. All right. Where else are people from? Jeddah from Saudi Arabia. Hey, Jeddah. Hope I'm saying that right. Saudi Arabia. You guys have got some architecture there, don't you? Kathy Jones from New York. Hey, Kathy. I'm going to be in New York from June till March. Elaine Lamb. There she is, South Africa. Elaine, you turn up to lots of these things. It's great. You have a thirst for knowledge. Good for you. How is it? Freema? Melinda from Nashville. Cool. We almost had our mastermind meeting in Nashville. All right. We're going to answer any questions. So feel free to type in some questions. Oh, it's not helping, Elaine. What do you mean it's not helping? Ask better questions.
Well, she's in South Africa. It's pretty tough down there. So I see Kathy Jones saying, I'm not hearing audio. Have you started? And the answer is yes. I'm guessing since several of you have responded where you're located that you must be hearing us. So I'm just going to type in
Okay. Right, guys. So we'll answer any questions. We do have some questions lined up. People have submitted some questions in advance on a number of different channels. So, Eric, do you want to start by going through any questions?
Yeah, I'm just responding here. Why don't you take one? Just where should one promote a firm? Because I think that's a very common one. You know, what are the best places to promote a firm? And is that the right question to be asking? Is part of this?
Yep, sure. Okay, that is a good question because you've got so many different options, right? You know, there's Facebook and LinkedIn, and you're probably, many of you are being approached by advertisers to be in their magazine, but you have to pay to play. You can spend a lot of money on advertising. There's a lot of people who will take your money, and it's not just the money either, is it? It's the time. So some of the things are free. You can go out networking and things like that. Some of them are free, but there is a time to it. So what is the most time effective and what is the most cost effective source of winning projects? I can definitely tell you that. In the last 10 years, we have looked at everything. And the answer is, and it's kind of one of those ones that people never look at, but when I'm working with architects, the first place I get them to look is referrals. That is the best place. Now, there is a strategy that I talk about a lot in the training, in our training, is the dirty 30. So let's just have a think about this whole, where do our current projects come from? Because we know that a lot of marketing for architects doesn't work, right? You'll have all spent thousands of dollars and had little or no result from some marketing activity you've had. But then I'll also say to you, where do most of your projects come from at the moment? Right now, actually just type in what percentage, just type in a percentage. Where do most of your projects come from at the moment? Now, most of you are probably going to say referrals and word of mouth. So you can include that, right? Now, what percentage of your projects come from referrals and word of mouth? Just type in here. Now, what we're probably going to see, and I'll have a look at the numbers a bit later on, but if you like most groups that we speak to, the numbers probably of where your projects come from is probably likely to be anywhere between 50 to 100%. Okay, so we've got Shane says 95%, Daniel 100, Facebook user 90%, Megan word of mouth, Lucas 50%, Megan says 100, right? So somewhere from 50 to 100, right? Mostly referrals, says James. Now, so what we know. Okay, when it comes to marketing, what we know is most things don't work very well for architects, and there's a number of reasons. But we do know that referrals does work, right? So one of the smart things to do, let's say you're a gambler at the races, one of the smart things to do is try and back a winning horse, right? Now, if there's a race between all the different ways of promoting yourself, and one horse is called referrals and word of mouth, then that would be the horse I'd be backing, because we know that it wins a lot, right? And most people don't think, the big catch here is most people don't think of referrals and word of mouth as a marketing strategy, and it's not if you're just sitting back passively waiting for them to come in. Right, it's not a strategy. It's just you're just lucky, right? And so, where is the best place to promote myself? Referral strategies is the best thing to do. Put in place referral strategies. So, the premise being, if we can double or triple our referrals, and if I'm getting 75% of my projects now from referrals and word of mouth already, and let's say I'm a one-man band, and that's 7 projects a year are coming from referrals and word of mouth. If I can double or triple my referrals, then I'm probably going to have more business than I can handle. I'm going to have to start doing 2 things. I'm going to have to start forming a waiting list for projects, and 3 things. I'm going to have to form a waiting list. I'm going to have to start saying no to projects that I might have been saying yes to before, but I shouldn't have been. And the third thing I can do is I can put my fees up, because I've got more business than I can handle, right? And if I'm being a bit more discerning and a bit more picky, because I've got referral systems in place. So, that is the best place, referral systems. And, if you only do one form of marketing, that would, in terms of self-promotion, I'd be building a list. I'd be building a referral list, and then I'd be marketing myself and building relationships to that list, right? Because at the moment you don't have a list. You're not doing anything formally you're just lucky. You're just sitting there and some referrals are coming in. But I guarantee if you had referral systems, you could double, triple, or quadruple the number of referrals coming in. All right. Long answer. Next question.
So I do see something from Daniel Steger related to this, saying, what should we be thinking about as next steps after the initial meeting? Because he's had some good success with reaching out to colleagues on the Dirty 30 or Fabulous 40, taking a contractor to coffee and the like. But what should we be thinking about as the next steps after the initial meeting? Ways to stay in contact, etc.
Okay. That's a really good point. So it's not just connecting with someone once who could be a referral. What you want to build is a relationship, right? And so the question is, how am I going to build this relationship with people, right? And it's what I get people to do is come up with a 12-month communication plan. So we get them to list 30 people on a list of who could be good influencers, who could be good referrers. And then we get them to come up with a 12-month calendar and work through, and there's a list of different things they can do. I'll give you a small handful now, but these are things to consider. But you've got to come up with your own common sense. How am I going to build relationship with these people? It could be 30, dirty 30 or fabulous 40 or filthy 50. How am I going to build a relationship? So, there's things you can do. There's some obvious things like you can go and meet them, once a quarter. You can call them up. You can have a schedule in your yearly thing for, when you're going to call them. You can organize a group meeting, maybe a referral group where you and say a small handful of you meet for breakfast once a month or once a quarter. You can interview them for a newsletter or for an article. So there's a number of different things, but you've got to do what makes sense to you. And when you do meet them, let's say you meet them for the first time. Let's say you call someone up and say, hey, we're working with similar type of clients. I noticed. Let's say it's a builder. And you say, hey, I noticed you're doing high-end residential and I do high-end residential. One of the good ways to meet with a builder like that is to say, I'm looking for someone who I can refer people to. And you're doing work in my area, the type of projects I like doing. Are you open to receiving referrals if I had the right type of person? Now, most builders are going to go, yes. Yes, I am. And you go, well, why don't we, let's have a quick meeting for coffee or something like that. I'd like to get to know, a bit more about you so that I know the type of projects you're after and the type of projects you're not after. And then I may be able to refer people to you in the future. I certainly like your work, right? And you may be able to refer people to me, right? Now, most people, if they're not absolutely flat out, are going to bite your hand off to. I did speak at a builders conference once. We run a group for architects where we train architects to win projects and, put in place systems and processes and things like that. Well, I went to one. It was for builders, similar sort of thing to what we did. They coached the builders to put in place systems and processes and improve their business. And one of the questions that came up at the builders conference that I spoke at was, this is from the builders, how do we get referrals from architects? Right. And I said, the funny thing is, when I'm talking to the architects, I get exactly the same question from them. So this is, just imagine a great big dance hall where you've got boys on one side of the room and girls on the other side of the room, and they both want to meet the other side. And it's not very hard. If you reach out, maybe not everybody wants to have a dance with you, but a lot of them will, because they're just as keen to get business as you are. So if you reach out to builders and all these other professionals, they're all constantly looking for work, I can promise you. And particularly as the economy gets a bit tougher, it'll be easier and easier to reach out to these people, talking about, referring each other. Right.
So there are, I guess, more questions related to the referrals, but let's move on to a slightly different topic. So Luis Marengo says, nowadays in Los Angeles, everybody wants to do ADUs in their properties. So accessory dwelling units, small extra buildings. How can I get a piece of that big cake? So this is an interesting thing, because you've identified, at least just from being in the area, being in the industry, that a bunch of stuff is happening in a particular sector. General architecture firms can do that. I mean, most any designer can work on an ADU, but can you focus on that in a way that you provide extra value, that you make it easier than than going with someone else, maybe create something that has higher value in terms of rental, like ADU could be used for Airbnb or things like that, etc. So I'll tell you one of our clients who actually has created a little side business So she's an architecture firm, Jennifer Kretschmer in Silicon Valley. She's actually was president of the AIA Silicon Valley chapter a couple of years ago, and she's been working with us for a long time. And she's actually created a whole new branded area of her company. I think she calls it getadu.com or something like that. And she's arranged with local municipalities to have some designs that need to be tailored to the site, but have them pre-approved or already approved. So one of the things she can do is say, we can do this. It does still take design work. We have to make sure it fits the site and everything, but she can guarantee that it'll get approved quicker because of the relationships and the pre-existing, arrangements in many of the, cities around her, Silicon Valley, Cupertino area. So that's an interesting way to say, you know what, I'm going to specialize in this. I'm going to create something that other people can't directly compete with because, at least that brand of hers, she still does, net zero energy is her other focus. And that's a real clear niche, different than ADUs, but that's an interesting thing. So Richard, do you have any other comments and ideas related to that?
Yeah. Well, this will relate not just to ADUs, but to anything. Screen sharing. I want to just try and share my screen. Okay, I want to share. Oh, it's not coming up. There we go. That's all right. I'm onto it. If I can draw it here. Oh, it's not coming up.
One of our team members, Gabriel Tantini, has joined. That's awesome. Great. Glad you're here.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. So I'll just draw something out for you guys that might be worth considering. Okay, and this doesn't just apply to ADUs, it applies to any market. Okay, so let's say here's the client there, and what do they want? Well, in this case, let's say they want ADUs, okay? But this can work for any specialty area. What they want is, well, obviously what they want is they want an ADU, okay? Now to get the ADU, they need some construction, right? And to get the construction, they need design, right? So what do most architects, I think it was Daniel, was it? What most architects will do is they will line up over here, and there'll be, well, in the US, there's 80,000 of you guys registered architects. So they all line up and go, well, I can do design, I can do design, I can do design. And I don't know if you've noticed, guys, but there's a lot of competition for design, right? The design schools are pumping out architects faster than anything, which is great. So you got all these people here, and they're all saying, I do design, I do design, I do design. Now, for someone like Daniel, and so you've got everyone doing this. Okay, so it's a really competitive game. So the thing to do in marketing is often not play the game that everybody else is playing, right? And what we can do is say, well, what do people need before they go to design, right? So at the moment, everyone's doing that, and they're trying to sell their design. Now, what you can do is you can think about the market and say, well, actually, before they get to design, they go through this big education phase, right? And they have lots of questions. They have lots of questions before they get to design, which is why a lot of people take a long time to, you talk to them and they ask questions, and you think they're a tire kicker, but they're not probably in the design phase. They will talk about design, but they shouldn't be. They're still in the information gathering phase, right? So they're after info. Now, if it were me, I would be setting up a little part of my business where I am Mr. ADU education. I'm the thought leader for ADUs, and I would position myself here, right? And I would provide tools and resources and ideas and education and thought leadership around ADUs, right? So anyone who is in this position here and they're not really ready to go, which is a large number of people. There's more people who are information gathering about ADUs than there are actually hiring architects, right? But if I can position myself here, notice how many little stick men there are here. There's one. There's just me, right? Now this is a game I can win. I can gather a whole lot of people in here. I can get them onto lists, or I can get them to reach out to me and request my tools and resources, and they can subscribe to some of my things. I can build a rather large list, a prospect list. Now, not all of them are going to end up going through to design, but some of them are, right? And I'm getting them. What am I doing? I'm getting them early, right? I'm able to educate them and get them into thinking about my way of thinking, which means I'm able to set the buying criteria when they do move into design. They're thinking my way. There's so many benefits by being the Lone Ranger over here. So is that a clue as to how you might do it? I think it was Daniel, but does that concept, I haven't got time to go into detail and the logistics of it and things like that, but does the concept help you and give you an idea, or all of you, as to something you might be able to do? Planting seeds for future work growth. Yep. Oh. Yeah, Eric, are you muted?
I guess I was. Thank you for letting me know. All right. Okay. So I don't know how that happened. All right. So I just see a couple of questions from that relate to some high-tech tools. I think I'm just going to jump in and sort of segue to this for a short little bit. So Daniel asked, have you started to think about integrating AI and Chat GPT to assist? And there is another one that was how are architects using virtual experiences to market their work? So these are very different topics, but they both have to do with computer technology that allows you to potentially do things that you couldn't do before. So very briefly, AI and Chat GPT are interesting ways to get text written that can be useful for, let's say, articles, blog posts, etc., or social media posts. It can make it faster and easier to get some things that look pretty respectable or actually are pretty well written, just requiring a minor editing. So we are starting to experiment with that. We're seeing it quite a bit. Overall, it still relies on you as the expert, as the person who knows what the topic is and what is important to talk about. So ultimately, as what we focus on here at Architect Marketing Institute are the strategies, the things that you need to say or get in front of people, or just position yourself in a way that will attract the right people and make it clear that you provide very special value, perhaps unique value in a particular market segment. So ChatGPT is just a way maybe to get more words out there than you would otherwise. We've also experimented with things where we have someone interviewing an architect, and then, asking questions. So when you have an ADU, what is the first thing you think about? Or tell me 3 of the things that are, you should avoid when planning that. And the interview then can be written up by a writer, or possibly put into ChatGPT to basically get it words on paper, because maybe you're good at talking, but you hate writing, So these are tools that can leverage your skills, but ultimately you have to know what you want to talk about, who you're talking to, what it is that is important to them. So it's not just, we've done 25 years of experience with multifamily, residential projects, but what is it about a developer that they would care about in that sector? Well, maybe it has to do with cost overruns. Maybe it has to do with time to market. Maybe it has to do with getting the maximum utilization in terms of units. These are all things that the developer, if that's your market sector, if you want more projects of that type, care about. So ChatGPT is just one way of getting those words out there, but the strategy is the key part. And in the same way, the virtual experiences. So I have worked with ArchiCAD for a long time. Many of you have worked with Revit, or do work with Revit or other tools. There are ways to help clients understand design better, and ultimately feel more confident that they're going to get something that they love or that fits their needs. Now, one of our clients who's very successful, Peter Toohey, is an architect in the Baltimore, Maryland area, and he swears by it because, a client coming into his office can look and go, I can really understand, wear goggles, VR goggles there. But ultimately, the success of that has to do with delivering what people care about, and whether it's having more light and air or more privacy or more functional spaces, these are all things that are the primary thing that you want to communicate. The tools, they can help speed your ability to reach people, and to make it more tangible. But ultimately, what does it matter to the people you're talking to? And I'm going to give you one example of something that's totally the opposite of these high-tech things. And Richard, I know you'll agree and be able to jump off from this. What sort of questions can you ask a potential client when you're meeting with them that make them dig into their deeper sense of the goals, the meaning, the aspirations they have for a project? What do they want to feel? What are you trying to achieve for them? Because maybe a project that's beautiful and that people respect them for. It may be a project that feels innovative and that they are just proud of. It may be something that just is so wonderful for their family that they could live in forever, and transition through the ages. But how can you talk to people and find out what's important to them? Because once you do that, and I'll tell you, one of our successful clients, Eleanor Clark, is an interior design, primarily interior design, and she's in Ireland. And she said just today in our discussion group, she said, I made a client cry twice or 3 times today. And someone said, was that good? And she said, yes. She was crying because she felt understood. She, she asked her great questions, and the client felt, oh my God, you really know. So think about how you can have that emotional impact through listening more and asking questions. Richard, you want to take off from there?
Yeah, well, one of the things, it doesn't work for all clients, but one of the things that we have sort of developed is a thing called an emotional floor plan. So particularly for residential, an emotional floor plan where you ask questions like, how do you want to feel as you move through this space, right? Could be commercial, but how do you want to feel as you move through this space? Because at the end of the day, quality of life, as Tony Robbins says, is determined by the quality of the emotions you feel on a regular basis. So if we're not designing for emotion, I know you kind of intuitively do, you design houses that look and feel great, but if we can almost do an emotional audit on some clients, that's going to be highly valuable and generate massive rapport with some clients. Doing an emotional audit, how do you want to feel as you move through the space? And those are the type of deeper questions that can win you projects. You know, I mean, if you're talking to someone, you take the whole conversation away from an intellectual conversation where maybe they're primarily focused on price and cost and things like that, and you move it to the emotional part of their brain, which is a completely different experience, right? When you get them, you get into their emotional part of their brain, very, very different. And that's where projects are won and lost, because everybody, let's face it, when we buy anything, whether it's architecture or a car or marketing, marketing services, a lot of it comes down to, how do I feel about this person and how do I feel about what they're selling me? And if you can identify how someone wants to feel, then, through good questioning, or, and sometimes you can just outright ask them, how do you want to feel as you move through the space, as an example, you've got a huge advantage over someone else who really has, the only design brief they've got from the client is, I want 4 bedrooms and I like white and I like modern. You're at a way more connected level with, or you can be, with that client. Okay. Let's move on to some other ones. Any thoughts on that? Has anyone else put in some comments on that whole idea of selling through emotion?
Jeff writes, could also mean that the client needs therapy, but true, if you get a good client, they understand your value added.
Architects are half therapists, aren't you? So,
or marriage counselors, I've heard that.
Yeah, that's right.
So how does a referral system for a firm that specializes in designing schools differ from a residential firm?
Okay, specialize in designing for schools. Yep. Well, the theory is the same. You're looking to build relationships with key people who can refer you schools, right? So that doesn't change. But the only thing that's going to change is the list of people. So obviously the list of people who are going to refer you luxury high-end residential homes is going to be different from the list of people who can refer you schools. So that's really the only difference. The process of building relationship with that list might be very similar. You're going to meet them for coffee. You're going to email them occasionally. That maybe you're going to send them a newsletter. You're going to, maybe invite them to a group. Whatever makes sense for you. There's a whole list of things that I've got a list of relationship building things, but you can sit there and work it out for yourself, what would make sense for your list and for you. But yeah, it's probably just going to be the names on that sheet which are going to change. There was another question earlier about, does referral systems work for luxury high-end residential? And I think it was from Shahzadi Shamsi. There's a name for you, Shahzadi Shamsi. Do they work for high-end luxury residential? Actually, referrals programs work even better for high-end luxury residential. The higher up you go in terms of the wealth chain, the more they rely on referrals from, now not from anyone, but from their peer group, right? So, people looking to do $10, $20 million homes, or even 5, they are far more influenced by the peers and the people that they respect than they are from advertising. They don't buy their architectural designer from a Facebook ad. They might use someone. There's 2 things they do. One, they do it through recommendations. So that's where referrals are so important. The other way they often do it is they discover an architect. So they read about them. And then they'll reach out to them once they've discovered them. So that's a dual pathway. You can get yourself published or interviewed and in publications, and referral sources would be the way I'd go for that. All right.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the school stuff, Daniel Osborne says, explain that the school decision makers still think that their school is their home. And with a school, the board is more important than the principal or head. So one of the things that's important when you're dealing with any type of project is figure out who are the decision makers and who are the stakeholders, right? So decision makers are the ones who make the ultimate choice. The stakeholders are the ones who, are affected by it. So the teachers, would be affected by it, but they probably don't make the ultimate choice. But they should have input, to make sure that their concerns are addressed there. So in a sales process, it's just a standard part of it. And here's a good way to phrase it for some things when you're in the early stages. Instead of saying who's the decision maker or who makes a decision about this or whatever, you can say what's the decision-making process for it. If it is a commercial one, you can ask that. But even in residential, it's, aside from you, who else needs to be involved in this decision, or who else needs to be part of this discussion? And that can very quickly at least make sure that you're not just talking to the assistant who's gathering information, and then you have to go and hope that they pass it along to someone who might be the decision maker. So
yeah, the other one on that is it's not just the decision makers, all the stakeholders. It's also who are the influencers of those people, and that's where your referral network comes in. And that's where your referral network is if you have connections with the influencers of these people, then you're more likely to be bought in, right? If they don't know who you are, or they don't know you very well, you're less likely to be bought in, right? Now, it's not just enough to be known. You've got to be known as someone who can bring value to the situation. And that's where, remember that little graph I drew earlier? If you position yourself as the thought leader for school renovations or school builds, and you have content, you have ideas, you have examples, you have education, you have some tools and resources, then not only maybe the decision makers will find you, but the influencers will probably find you as well. And so it might be your resources that get passed on. So another I'll just cover this one quickly, but in that zone of being a thought leader for that area, there is nothing stopping you, and this is probably one of the smarter things to do, for creating consulting products or services that go and do some of the pre-design research and analysis for a school. Basically help, most schools are going to go to and get proposals or RFPs or tenders for, let's say, designers or construction, right? If you can get yourself positioned as someone who provides services to schools or boards or whoever, and you provide services that help them get ready, collect data, collect information, and you consult with them prior to them going to those tenders and processes, then that's a very smart thing to do, right? So it's a case of coming up with products and services that provide services which are of high value to people prior to going out to getting tenders and proposals. Works very, very effectively.
Mm-hmm. So Shane Reed, would that work for opening up into new areas as well? So I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, but ultimately, how do you get visible in a way in an area, whether it's a location like a new city? There's someone who asked about, I'm in this place and we're doing some work in London. How do we get seen? And of course, it could be a new sector, like I want to be seen for ADUs, or, we've done one school and we want to do more of those, so how do you get visible in another area? How do you open up a market or just establish a premium position there? Richard, you want
to? Yeah, well, sure. I mean, look, if you have a large number of fantastic projects which are exactly what that market wants, that's great. But for a lot of you, if you're opening up a new area, how do I get myself, in the limelight in that area when I don't have the projects? And the answer is, as I said before, you can get yourself into the limelight by being the educator for that particular niche, by being the thought leader, by writing articles about those type of projects, by creating resources and tools, right? You don't need any projects to be able to talk about it. You don't need any projects to educate, provide education. Hopefully you know the area, but you may not have the exact type of thing. So by being a thought leader, you got to think, what are people interested in? They're interested in information. They're interested in relevant content, right? Now, you can't promote projects that you haven't done, but you can promote relevant content to the right people. And most architects don't have time or don't think of this. They might write an article, they do a newsletter once a year. That's the extent of their thought leadership, right? And they just rely on things to come, but you can be way more proactive on that. So, I keep harking, whoever educates the market owns the market. You can get yourself into positions that you can't get yourself into with just, a small number of projects. And look at my projects. No one's particularly interested in seeing your portfolio. Unfortunately, they might check it out, when they're working out whether to hire you or someone else. They might check it out at that point, but it's not that relevant or interesting until, you're on the final choice.
Mm-hmm. So Richard, I'd like to segue here and sort of move towards conclusion. There's a comment that I think I can sort of answer or address, and I think draw this to a close. So Kyle England says, we sell through the idea of legacy. The building is a legacy to leave through their children or junior partners, etc. Okay, so think about legacy. First of all, why is that important? Well, for some people, it is very important, because they want something enduring, whether it's for the family or for a business that continues on after they decide to retire. But for others, it may be less important. But if you can identify that, and then you're in a better position than someone who just says, well, we can get you this much space, or we can have this many units, or we can, whatever it is. You're talking about something that emotionally has some value. Now, legacy also means enduring value. And so I'm going to just invite those of you who are on this call and watching the recording, if you'd like to build a legacy for your own firm in terms of having a marketing system and a framework for attracting the ideal clients, the best clients that you want to work with, and to be able to get paid well, this is what we specialize in. So we can help you develop a game plan and ultimately develop a system that will attract and win better clients and projects. And so I invite you to book a call with a member of our team. If you go to archmarketing.org/game plan-call, and I'll write it in the chat as well. You'll be able to book a call with Sue Asinas, who's Director of Client Services. And now the reason I put this into legacy is if you learn something through us, well, we teach you to fish. We teach you how to attract and catch those clients for the rest of your career. So there is an investment. It does take effort. It doesn't just happen by listening and going, oh, those are good ideas. It happens through implementation, but we'll help you every step of the way. And ultimately, within a few months, and actually even within a few weeks, you'll have some things that are working for you. Within a few months, it'll be kicked into gear. And for the rest of your career, you're going to be in a much better position. The legacy, in terms of, in this case, is the long-term. How many more years are you going to be in business? 10 years, 20 years, 30? So I invite you to have a chat with a member of our team. That's archmarketing.org/game plan-call. And I'll post that in to the chat there.
And so do that, guys. If you're serious about winning better projects, one of the benefits of working with us is that most of the tools, the scripts, the marketing systems are almost ready to go. You just have to adapt them for your niche. Okay, so just chat to Sue. If it makes sense to you, you can go and do it. If it doesn't make sense, no problem, but just have a chat. Good comment here from Jeff. He says he was talking about counselling intentions between. He's obviously presided over a few projects and a few divorces along the way, which is why he always has a jointly owned husband and wife properties to sign the contract. So if they do split, I still get paid. Very clever. Very clever. You've got to ask yourself why they're all divorcing when they're working with you, though, Jeff. Hopefully it's them and not you. I'm sure it's them. Okay. Any final things? There's a few other things, but we probably have to. We will run more of these sessions again. So if your questions haven't been asked, I'll tell you what you can do is you can also join the Architect Marketing Institute Facebook group if you're not already, and you can post questions and comments in there. We give a lot of sort of free ideas and training and that sort of stuff. All right. What do you reckon, Eric?
Yeah, I'm just going to post that that link here, here, and then. So that's a free membership. You just have to fill in a little information, and then you can get in. And lots of great discussion there. Obviously, if you do join one of our programs, then you get access to a whole new world of committed architects, active action takers who are really working on marketing. And it's quite wonderful. You know, I think I've mentioned some things about, you know, Peter Toohey, or the one with the virtual reality, or Jennifer Kretschmer with the ADUs and the net zero energy, or Eleanor Clark with the having someone so motivated that, you know, so feeling so understood that she cried. You know, there's such great sharing from our members about the challenges and the wins that we're all experiencing. That it's very exciting. You know, day by day, I just, you know, love looking at the discussions and the questions and the materials that are shared within, particularly within our paid program. You know, we have a vault of a huge number of things that people have shared that you wouldn't see out there on the internet. They're actually, you know, private documents, but shared, you know, within our program. So invite you to check that out. You know, a game plan call, I'll just highlight that again here, will give you a sense of how our programs work. And, you know, we'll allow you to take the steps to go. And I think, Richard, looks like you're going to talk about Sunshine Island.
Yeah, well, exactly. And this is what it's all about, I think, for architects. Look, we've got, on this scale here, we've got high fees. And I want you guys to think where you fit on this quadrant. But let's say we've got high fees here, and then we've got small fees here. So small fees, you're almost working for free. At the high end, you're earning really, really good fees. So have a think about, you know, in your marketplace, where you would put yourself out of 10. If this is 10 up here, this end, and this would be 0, where would you be out of 10? Right? Are you earning really high fees, low fees, or somewhere in the middle? And then we'll go fulfilling projects. So projects you really love versus projects that you don't really love. So, you know, where are your projects? 10 would be, oh, absolutely love my projects, and you know, fantastic. 0, hate my projects, and there would be somewhere in the middle. Okay, so these are different quadrants. Now, for those of you who are earning low fees and working on not very good projects, we call this the old quarter. Okay, this is almost like a village. There's the old quarter. For those of you who love your projects but are not very well paid, the artist quarter. You might consider yourself a bit of a starving artist. Up here, I'm earning good money, but I don't really enjoy the work I'm doing. That would be the new quarter. And then this one here, we call Sunshine Island. Right. Now, just type in the chat window, actually, which quadrant you think you might be in now. And we'll just see where most people are. But the whole goal, obviously, the place to be is earning decent fees and doing projects that you really love. Now, not that many people are. And so to get in there, you need a bridge. You either need, you know, to find a way to win projects that you enjoy more, or you need to find, you know, you're enjoying the projects, but I need to find a bridge that allows me to win better, charge higher fees, or I need to do both. Right. And we've got a program, that program that Eric's talking about is 6 maps. So it's about building bridges for anybody to get them into Sunshine Island and to get them to stay there. So which quadrant are you in? Just type in the chat window, which quadrant are you in now? And for those of you who are keen to sort of leverage the bridges that we have made, then jump on the game plan call. Jump on that game plan call link. So as it Shane says, currently in the artist quadrant, There you go, and needs a bridge. All right, so Shane's down here somewhere. So yeah, that's it, the bridge. And this chat really is a chat about the bridge, right? You'll just have a chat. Sue is the lady who'll probably run it. She's on this call at the moment, actually. So Sue will have a chat to you, and she'll talk to you about the bridge and run you through it and how it works. And if it makes sense to you, you can move ahead with it. It doesn't, no big deal. Sue's very friendly. So Megan is currently in Sunshine Island for now, but when these projects end, I could end up anywhere. Yeah, that's the problem, right? So, I mean, I think getting to Sunshine Island is doable sometimes, but it's about, you want to live there. You don't just want to rent there. You don't want to rent an Airbnb on Sunshine Island for a couple of days. You want to set up and own a house. So James is here. Shane is in the artist quarter. Nick okay? Nick over here. Nick's up here. He needs a bridge. Megan. So Megan's here at the moment, but she's a bit nervous. That's good. What about the rest of you? All right, but it's interesting to sort of think about it in this way, because often people just accept where they are and think, I'm not that happy, but, you know. All right, that's it from me, Eric. Yeah. If you've got any final comments, then we can wrap up.
If you are in the Facebook group, we'll be posting more materials there. Look for a message from one of our team. You know, we'll be following up, probably sharing some more things in the group. So look for a friend request from a member of our team. We have a few people who work for us who communicate on this direct message level. And as well, we're using direct messaging on LinkedIn. So look for connection requests as well. So I'm really excited that we had so many people on here from all three of the networks that we've broadcast on. We will edit this recording a little bit and then post a replay probably with some extra download links on there. And we'll be in touch by email and possibly by SMS text shortly once we have the link set up. So Richard, I think probably a good place to finish up.
Yeah, I just need to color this in first before we go.
Can you make it? There you go, yellow. Yeah, there we go. Okay, good.
There we go. All right, thanks everybody. Hope you do well. Who's that said need a bridge to get big clients to my business? So Emil. So Emil. Okay, there's a link down there. Just jump on that and have a chat with Sue, and Sue will sort of talk you through the bridge for anyone who's serious. Thanks, guys. See you all soon.
All right. So here's our concluding. Go there and book a call. We'll see you. We'll probably do another live stream next week. Look for an announcement, and we'll be trying to help you get to Sunshine Island. You will.